¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kan du norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
I use Shipt same-day delivery to stay connected with my sister during the holidays. She lives across the country. Shipt has tons of stores to order from. Groceries from Albertsons, crafts from Michael's, even pet supplies from PetSmart. The list goes on. So when we have long-distance movie nights, I turn to Shipt to get face masks, snacks, and everything else we need delivered to her and to me same day. Download the app or visit shipt.com. That's SHIPT.com. Every leap in American history has needed breakthrough energy.
Ignition, liftoff.
Now, AI is here, and Chevron is working to power it. We're aiming to develop multi-gigawatt power plants near data centers, designed with future pathways to lower carbon intensity. AI gets the power it needs, communities get the jobs, and the grid stays strong. Powering AI today builds America's next superpower.
Good news, dear listeners. The 2026 Achtung Millwall calendar is now available for £10 plus postage. All profits will support the fantastic Lions Food Hub. To pick up your copy, either direct message us on X at Achtung Millwall or email us at achtungmillwall@gmail.com. Come on, you lions.
Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to a retrospective edition of Achtung Mill in the midst of the interminable international break. Joining me to break the misery of international football is the man himself, our own very own retrospective contributor, Neil Fissler. How are you, Neil?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. It's bright and sunny. So
It's lovely, isn't it? Yeah.
What else can you wish for on a
Well,
late November Monday
true.
afternoon?
Very true. I caused a bit of mild, I mean, it is only mild, listeners. I don't cause big controversy on X, Neil, but I go for like very, instant coffee type levels of mild controversy by congratulating Troy Parrott, who got a hat trick for the Republic of Ireland in Budapest yesterday. And for the most part, it's got loads and loads of likes. I said the rise of Troy Parrott is quite something. Like all of us at the Den, Neil, I really hoped he'd find his form with us. It wasn't to be, to say the least, listeners. But it's certainly coming through now, and the World Cup is, well, for him, a couple of games away. Well done to the boy. I always thought there was a strong player there. And that last phrase, I always thought there was a strong player there, seems to have antagonised one or two who said that he was, made the obvious point, he was atrocious. But he arrived with a lot of fanfare, and I think it's taken him a while, Neil, but I think he's kind of proving there was a strong player at a certain level there. He's scored in Dutch football and he's scored international football away in Hungary. Now, that is not the top table. And, a very long way from saying that he can hold his own in, I don't know, the Premier League or the big European leagues. But I think he's showing something. And I always thought there was something there, but he certainly didn't show it for us. But anyway, mild controversy online, Neil, and I'd try and, get a bit of a talking point. One or two took a bit of exception to that phrase there about there being a player there.
He was a player I was quite excited about because obviously you saw his scoring record for Tottenham.
Yeah.
A youth and reserve team level, and you thought, Christ, this could be a good signing. But I think he was too young, not strong enough.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a particularly good signing. Well, it turned out not to be.
So it turned out. He went back to Tottenham from season started about January. He's back at Spurs. 11 appearances, no goals for us. And I think he went to Ipswich, League One Ipswich at the time.
And he didn't pull up any trees there. But sometimes it takes players quite a long time. Look at Harry Kane. He didn't do very much. Then all of a sudden, I'm not comparing them by any stretch of the imagination, But I think sometimes you've just got to have a little bit of patience with young players, and they're a gamble, aren't they?
I think
So
people, the hoo-ha and the razzmatazz when he signed was probably too much for a youngster. You're right. I think everyone thought we were signing the second coming of Harry Kane with Troy Parrott, um,
exactly.
which is big pressure to keep on a youngster's shoulders. Um, and I think it's the phrase that I always felt there was a strong player now. And the reason I said that is he's come through a fairly rigorous system at Tottenham. They don't. You got to have a certain level to at least be in the frame at a club of that size. And secondly, people laugh when you say YouTube reels, but he scored some spectacular looking goals at whatever level he's played at. So there's clearly a talent. Whether he can exploit that talent and how much time is needed, as it's turned out, a fair old time. He went to Preston. I don't think he did a huge amount there either. He certainly didn't do much at Millwall nor Ipswich after us. But he's coming good now for AZ Alkmaar in Dutch football, and now at the international level of Republic of Ireland away at Hungary. So, I think people are trying to tell me off a little bit for saying that he was shit for us, and he was certainly atrocious. I would agree for us. But I always felt there was something in there, and I think time has proven there was a talented player in there. It just took the nurturing to get to this point. But anyway, there we are. Controversy on X. You're stranger to such things, Neil. You never get much controversy on X, do you, in your walk of life?
Nah, mate, I try to avoid it. Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, but I couldn't even spell controversy on X.
Good stuff.
Yeah, there's always somebody willing to correct you on there.
Well, isn't that the truth? And it's a place of opinions, and fair enough. I mean, I wouldn't disagree with the criticisms of those that said that he didn't show anything for us. That was for sure. But I stand by my view that it was a player in there, it just didn't really manifest itself for Millwall. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. 100% right, I think.
There we go. We are here, Neil, to look back into the past, one of our regular retrospective shows, dear listeners. And I've picked out a Portsmouth game. We're away at Portsmouth this coming Saturday. So, yeah, we're talking about the 1966-67 season, a 1-0 win for Millwall, League Division 2. Fratton Park, 13,554 were there. And a 10th minute goal from Joe Broadfoot settled the issue. This, I believe, Neil, was our first season back in the second tier since 1947-48, so 20 years almost before. And this was under the management of Benny Fenton. I do have a match report, which is from the Sunday Mirror, dated 25th of September 1966. Portsmouth 0, Millwall 1-0. Millwall fans raced onto the pitch after this game to mob their side in achieving their first away win since returning to the second division. Mill's close unit defence, centred around Bryden Snowden, mastered anything that the home forwards could produce. But these defensive tactics did not bring them all the success they could have gained. When they changed gear and attacked, they frequently had Pompey in trouble. So a defensive lineup for Mill this day, listeners. They took the lead on 10 minutes. Mill determined to hang on to it. At one time, 10 men were spread in a line across the penalty box. Home skipper Harry Harris for Portsmouth went nearest to getting the equaliser with 3 fine headers in the second half. One of these was scooped off the line by John Gilchrist. Len Julian's had his name taken for arguing with the referee midway through the first half. This was the only blot on Mill's success. The vital goal on 10 minutes came when a Billy Neal corner was neatly slid on by Len Julians to Joe Broadfoot, who beat Milkins from close range. So there it is. 1-0 win for Lons. First one back in the second division after promotion from Division 3 the season before then, Neil. And I think that was largely achieved under Billy Gray, but Benny took over late in that season, if memory serves.
Yeah, there was some kind of dispute, wasn't there? Just after we won promotion, and he decided, didn't he jump ship to Brentford somewhere?
I think he did. He left, and I think the dispute was over a fairly, given the success that Billy Gray had achieved with us, it was as often happened in Mill history, it was over money not being paid out. It was something fairly trivial in the big picture, but
Yeah, wasn't it something to do? Yeah, I've written a book on it and I can't bloody remember.
It
That's
was it was something to do with I think it was something to do with expenses, Neil. It was like, charging for expenses or something of that kind. We'll have to check that up, listeners, and find out what the cause of the fallout was. And this is not the first time. I do remember another name from the past, Charlie Hewitt. I think he fell foul of the directors and expenses and charging for things that didn't happen. I don't know whether he got a taxi and actually got on the bus, charged for a taxi, that kind of thing. We have a bit of a track record of trivialities leading to the end of managers, and this was certainly the case with Billy Gray. But we fell on our feet with Benny Fenton's arrival, a man that would go on to manage the Lions and take us as close as we'd been at that point to the First Division. But he was a very defensive-minded manager, Benny, and that piece there from the Sunday Mirror kind of picked that out, that it was hit on the break and almost Gary Rowett style of defence with breaks for the goals when they came.
Funnily enough, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say it was rabbit ball or rabbit ball, wasn't it?
Rowett ball before Rowett. Before Rowett was a little twinkle in his mum and dad's eye in the prison.
Yeah, definitely.
But there we are. The Mill team. I've got a Mill lineup here, which is quite a list of names that some of the older listeners will love. Some of these names: Laurie Leslie in goal. I remember Laurie Leslie as a trainer, old school trainer, when I first started going. I think he was a Scottish international goalkeeper in his time as well, Laurie Leslie.
Yeah, from the Vermin.
Yeah, West Ham. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So Laurie Leslie, John Gilchrist, Billy McCullough, Ken Jones, Brian Snowden, Tommy Wilson, who would get 4 goals in the whole season. This was not a high-scoring season, listeners, incidentally. Tell me something new. 4 goals for Tommy Wilson over the season. Joe Broadfoot, we've scored one of these, the only goal of this game at Fratton Park. He got 5 over the season. Bobby Hunt, our top scorer then was Len Julians, who got 17 goals and was very much the mainstay of our goal-scoring threat, 66, 67, as Neil said. Eamon Dunphy and Billy Neal. But otherwise, minimal amounts of goal scoring across the sides. When your lead scorer gets 17 and your next top scorer is 5, it's very much leaning on, a bit like we lean on Femi Aziz now, Neil. We lean on Len Julians that season, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely. It was something to say that I think we stayed up. I think we were quite comfortable. I can't remember the.
Yeah, it was a decent season for us, first one back, and I've just got the league table for 66, 67. We actually finished in 8th position, which is not bad. How many times have you and I on our shows, Neil, now and then say that 8th is not a bad position for Millwall Football Club, and it was then.
We'd kill for 8th this season because I think, would it just be enough to get us in the playoffs? I think it would be, wouldn't it?
Probably would be, yeah. Well, we'd certainly be in the hunt for it. That's we're just behind Palace this season. We finished with 2 points for a win back then, listeners, so 45 points. But it was a decent season, good home form, as ever, with Millwall. 14 games won at home, just 2 losses at the Den. Whereas away from home, again, as per tradition, we never travelled very well. We got beat 13 times away from home, so that's a very traditional Millwall season. So yeah, we finish 8th, and let me get my notes back. There it is. I've got another press report. This is from the Daily Express on the Monday, listeners. Again, I suppose this is fading away a bit now, Neil, isn't it? The rise of the internet. But you'd have the Sunday reports, and you'd always get like a second report in the Monday papers as well. It was you had like a double report kind of system back then. But this is from the Daily Express, dated the 26th of September 1966, just a few months after England won the World Cup at Wembley. Skipper, cheers, says Snowden. Skipper Brian Snowden had to buy the whole Mill team drinks after the 1-0 win at Portsmouth. Never has it given a man more pleasure to say, "What's yours?" This is old school football, isn't it? When you had to buy the whole team a drink. Now it'd be energy drinks all round, I suppose, wouldn't it? Red Bulls or something like that. Back then it was alcohol. dear listeners, Brian Snowden was being discarded by Portsmouth 3 years before. And he said, "This is the first time I've been back, and I was keen to win, and I wanted to show them, apostrophe EM, I wanted to show them." And then they go on to describe the defensive 8-man defence tactics. One Pompey fan, Neil, said it's their first visit, Mill's first visit here for 33 years, and I hope it's another 33 years before I see them again. So they must have been defensively well set up that day, mustn't they?
Yeah, but they were ultimately deluded, weren't they? Didn't they have quite a decent team in the 50s, didn't they? But
yeah, well, we didn't play them for like 33 years, as the man says. We hadn't played them because they were one of the big clubs of the country, weren't they, Portsmouth?
Yeah, Jimmy Dickinson and all of that lot. And
absolutely.
We were just a little old Millwall. We'd struggled ever since Hitler kicked off World War II to keep us out the First Division. Yeah, no, well, we don't want any more conspiracy theories on that one. After the last time I mentioned it. But we'd actually been around the third and fourth division, hadn't we?
Yeah, we just never played them.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't suppose we ever went far enough in the FA Cup to play them.
No,
either.
we missed out on them one way or the other. It's certainly quite a gap. So finding this fixture was, I was really struck by that gap, taking them at the Second World War, most in the 1930s and a good chunk of the 20s. So yeah, we just never played them. I picked out 3 players, Neil. Names I don't think we've touched on before. And I apologise, listeners, if I have mentioned, but I thought a good chance just to mention Len Julian's top scorer for Mill in this 66-67 season. High scoring. Again, it's a name that, when you mention Mill strikers, Neil, they don't often get mentioned, but he had quite a record. Centre forward with us from 1963 to 67. I'm taking all of this from Neil's book, listeners, by the way. 140 games for Mill, 62 goals. That's quite a strike rate, isn't it? Born in 1933, died 1993. Len Julians. I picked out another name who Joe Broadfoot used to do some of the match day hosting at the Den. I hadn't seen him for a long while. Then I don't go in that part of the ground, so I don't know if he's still around there. But Joe Broadfoot, an outside right in old descriptions, winger nowadays, I suppose you call him. 2 spells with Millwall, 1958 to 64, and then 1966-67 this season. 273 games, Neil, and 66 goals. That's not a bad return either. Born in Lewisham in 1940, career coming in with Millwall, Ipswich Town, Northampton, before finally finishing with Millwall and Ipswich again in 1967. Signed by Jimmy Seed for a fee of 10 £1 notes. That's an unusual signing fee. It's 10 single £1 notes rather than tenner. But anyway, there we are. That was his signing fee. He only missed 2 games when Mill took the Division 4 title in 61-62, but then moved on to Ipswich and then coming back to the Den in the late 60s. He fell out with Benny Fenton, Neil, hasting another move back to Ipswich. He later drove a cab and has various job and business interests, the last of which was car cleaning in Ipswich. I'm sure Joe Broadfoot used to do match day hosting at the Den as well.
He did. Yeah, we did with his son. His son used to go in there. Last I heard, he wasn't particularly well, but
yeah,
he's done. He's what, 80?
1940. 80. So yeah, what's that? That's going to be 85, isn't it? So yeah. Well, good luck. Good luck to Joe Broadfoot. A great picture of him.
Person, believe he also had a paraffin business at one time with Davies, the goalkeeper.
I vaguely remember there being a paraffin business. Now you say that, I used to love. I remember Harry Cripps and Dennis Burnett went into decorating or something like that, in a decorator's shop or something like that. But anyway, this was the way of the football world then, wasn't it? Good luck to you, Joe. Hope you're well out there, mate. 273 games for the Lions, 1958 to 64, 67, 66, 67, 66 goals. And the final name that I've picked out from that team sheet, that 1-0 win at Portsmouth, 1966, is Eamon Dunphy, who is still highly active in the world of Irish Controversies. He's a podcaster. I think it's called The Stand, and he broadcasts on current affairs, politics, sports, all sorts of stuff. Another
He's also the Daily Star, Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, I believe, or one of those papers that
yeah,
I get on reader that I read every now and again.
midfielder, listeners, a highly skillful midfielder, Neil, but one that used to draw a lot of comment. I can remember, I mean, he left us in 1974, joined 65, left in 74, so I would have caught the final year and a bit, year and a half maybe, and I think he left to go to Charlton after leaving Millwall, but he did draw some comment for not putting in the effort as that great Millwall trait that demands blood and thunder rather than artistry. But he played 303 games for us and scored 25 goals. Came from Manchester United and York City, Millwall. For a long while, he was our most capped player for the Republic, Neil.
Yeah, he was the kind of the Troy Parrott before Troy Parrott, really.
Yeah, yeah, most cap. There is 22 appearances, and for a long time until the modern era, I'd say that was our highest appearance cap for any international side. I think he was an artistic midfielder, which but he's there for a long while. 303 games is a long while to be unpopular in a club, isn't it? Um, I remember when he wrote a book, a famous book, which I bought when it came out, and when he just left us to go to Charlton. It's called Only a Game, and it was a kind of
It was a diary of a season.
yeah.
If anybody's never read it, I would recommend reading it. I think it's still available on Amazon.
I think you can get it. I rebought it. I bought it when it came out as a 14-year-old. I read it, and I didn't really get the, what can we call it? There's a darkness that runs through some of the it's almost like the inner world of the professional footballer, Neil, I would say. And it isn't happy clappy. It tries to portray the reality of making a living playing sport. And I think I was too young to read it, really. I reread it as an adult, and I agree with what you've just said. It's well, I recommend everyone, if you follow any club, anywhere, any sport, the idea that your living and your livelihood depends on luck and commitment of others, and there's humour in there. It's a very it's a memoir of a season, almost like a view into the personality of a person. As I said, I bought it when it came out. I went up to the old club shop that used to be, they moved it to an old church up near New Cross Station. And I went up there and bought a copy of it from there. But as I say, I was too young to really absorb it and understand it, I think, at that age. But I've read it as an adult. And it's deep, deep stuff. He's a deep writer in a way. He's a deep thinker, Eamon Dunphy.
Yeah, he's one of the great thinkers of football even now, isn't he?
Yeah.
You stuff and you think, yeah, he puts a lot of thought into it. Didn't he also write a book on U2 or something like
The
that?
Unforgettable Fire, and he's that's U2, and also Matt Busby. I think that was called Strange Kind of Glory or something like that. It's a
Other something like that, yeah. Another book well worth reading. Somebody who knew Busby. Not popular
oh,
with his teammates. If you speak to some of his ex-teammates now,
yeah.
they're not shy on holding back as in blaming him for our failure to get promotion to the first division in the early
I
70s.
agree. I've never had a sense that I don't think he courts popularity, and nor does he get it. And I think
No,
he's quite a controversial figure on Irish television. Not so much over here, but I don't think he's shy of expressing his opinions. Let's put it right. And some people love that, some people can't bear it. So, but a very interesting character and quite a, in many ways, almost a Millwall character in that he cares nothing for popularity. No one likes us. Maybe no one likes Eamon Dunphy, but he doesn't care. And I think that's quite an interesting personality. So yeah, I've picked out Eamon Dunphy, Len Julians, and Joe Broadfoot. 3 very different personalities, but what wonderful characters.
He's also a biography a few years ago. I can just see it on my shelf up there.
Okay.
Called The Rocky Road, which is well worth reading.
Right.
If you haven't read it and you're looking to put something on a Christmas list this year, do get It's Only a Game.
Yeah.
Or
which is on Amazon. You're right.
Yeah.
Well worth
It's
a read.
well worth reading, just to get a sense of what Millwall was about and what football was about back then. It wasn't any of this glory fannying around that you get now. I think we used to train on a shale pitch over Deptford Park, somewhere like that, didn't we? Or
I remember as I'm speaking, the bits of the book come back to me. There was the departure of Harry Cripps, and this would be 1974. So you had the kind of how it feels to be the outgoing star, whose star is now very much in the dipping now as new players came in. Back then it would have been Dave Donaldson and Eddie Jones in the side at that point. It was a big deal when Harry Cripps was formally dropped, listeners. Quite hard to get now because it's a long time ago. But Harry actually moved on. I think Dunphy went to Charlton and helped them to get promoted from the 3rd division. So but this kind of sense of being left out of something, it was deep stuff. Well worth a read. And it does give you an insight into the mindset of any professional sportsman, no matter whether it's football or pro rugby or cricket or whatever.
I think it's well worth doing an episode on it, Nick.
Yeah, as I'm speaking, I think there's more and more to it, Neil. I think you're right. Maybe we'll do that. We'll save that for another time. We're going to take a short moment to play some adverts, listeners, and we're back with 1 or 2 other bits that I found from the Millwall news of this particular week in 1966. Stay tuned.
Grabbing the holidays by the boughs with Duluth. Step 1. Hire a mall Santa to handle snow removal.
Ho, ho, ho! My sciatica!
Step 2. Hit Duluth Trading and load up on fire hose pants, buck naked underwear, pocket pack bibs, free swinging flannel, and all kinds of ingenious gear you won't find anywhere else. Grab the holidays by the boughs and shop Duluth Trading. Online and in-store.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana. You don't technically need this car. You say that out loud to yourself. You say, I have no space. You say, I'm just looking. Then you click. Then you zoom in on photo number 87 and whisper, oh no. Then you text a friend, the one who always enables you. You say to yourself, this is the last one, knowing it is not. You don't need this car. But maybe, just maybe, this car needs you. Bring a trailer. It's never just a car.
You're listening to Achtung Millwall.
Welcome back, dear listeners. Neil, I found a couple of little stories of interest, as we do. We like to go off on tangents on this show. And I found 2 little stories from the same week as the game that we've mentioned, the retrospective game, Pompey 0, Millwall 1, September 1966. I found one story here that we're going to let Barry Rowan, the former Dover winger. This is from the Kentish Express, 24th of September 1966. Barry Rowan has been suspended by Millwall for 7 days, and he's been put on his transfer list at his own request. Millwall, there's only a short paragraph, but lots in this paragraph. Millwall manager Benny Fenton said Barry Rowan, or Rowan as he's called him, Rowan has been suspended because he failed to report as substitute for our match with Preston on Monday. He didn't turn up, basically, as substitute, because substitutes would have only just started in this particular season before, I think, on the 65. So he's been put on the transfer list. And there sounds like there's a lot more behind the scenes going on there suspended for 7 days, and he's put himself on the transfer list. There we are, Barry Rowan. He was a winger, yeah, Dover winger for the Lions as well. So that's one story.
He was. He spent many years, didn't he?
Did he do host work as well at the Den, Neil? I think he was another one that
he did. Yeah, he did. He was. He was a host at the Den until quite recently.
He used to walk out with the teams, no matter what the weather. If it's the same guy I'm thinking of, I think it was Barry Round. But if it was cold, freezing cold, he'd always walk out with just a shirt and tie, and his cuffs folded back a couple of times. That no matter what the weather, that was how he went out to the middle of the pitch with the sponsors to do the photographs at kick-off. You know, the coin toss kind of stuff. And he's always he shouldn't be immune to temperature. So Barry Rowan. Anyway, he fell out with Benny Fenton and hadn't turned up when he was a substitute at Preston. With Preston, must have been at the Den. Second story, and I do remember this being a big deal in its time. This is 1966, though, and this will carry on certainly until I was going in the very early 70s. This is kids running on the pitch at the end of the football match. You just don't see this. And you saw one character the other day ran on the pitch at full-time versus Preston the other day, but he was going to be nicked, and I don't know whatever punishment it is now. It's quite a severe punishment for going on the pitch.
3 year ban, isn't it?
£1,000 fine and ban and God knows what else, and your passport gets surrendered, all sorts of stuff in football games. But in the 60s, Millwall were going to fine, inverted commas, listeners, fine boy rowdies. Millwall last night slapped a shilling fine, 1 shilling, which is 5 pence, kids, on all boys who go through the turnstiles at the Den. The directors have decided at a council of war is the language they're using. This is
superb, isn't it?
Daily Express, council of war, that this was the only way to stop schoolboy fans from repeatedly making mass invasions of the pitch. Admission for boys will go up to 3 shillings as from Saturday's home game versus Birmingham City. Next paragraph is headed difficult. They're trying to be reasonable here. Secretary Gordon Borland said last night this was a difficult decision to make, but something had to be done. Things have been getting out of hand despite repeated stern warnings in our programme. A lot of the kids are going to read the programme. Turnstile prices will go up, and we threatened to put them up to an adult admission price, full price of 4 shillings. If invasions continue, it's the language of 1940, isn't it? Council of war, invasion. Now the future is in the hands of the boys themselves. If they behave themselves, I'm sure the directors will at some later date reconsider the position. There we are. Boy rowdies invading the pitch. And
So Mr. Bye for now would really have had fun, wouldn't he, when he screams the future of the club is at stake when everybody piles on after the last game of the season and the players will not come out until you're all off.
I do remember this being a big deal, and I started going when I was about 11 years old, going towards 12. So, at this age where at the end of the game, kids would run on the pitch. It used to be quite an accepted and normal part of the game. You see it on all clubs, but it used to be cause frenzy at the time. I suppose we've been closed by FA order so many times that they were frightened of what might happen. And I remember in the early 70s, there was this threat to take away the kids' price and raise it to adult prices, which would have meant, and I can't remember how much it was now, shillings and 10p and 15p or whatever, it would have gone up to something like 40 or 50p. And it probably would have meant that most of these kids that were coming in wouldn't have gone to football at all, Neil. So there was this endless kind of cat and mouse of threatening to do it, never doing it. And then another invasion would happen, or the kids would run on, and they would threaten to do it again. And then they'd withdraw the threat. And they didn't want to lose the revenue they did get, because if they'd have jacked up the price to the full price, probably most of these kids wouldn't have gone and they would have lost money. So, as ever, if you want small-time thinking, come to Millwall kids, because that's what you're going to get.
Yeah, wasn't this the boys' pen?
There was a boys' pen, yes, that's right.
Yeah, it sounds nowadays like slightly Yeah, but slightly sinister, doesn't it?
The
A
boy's
boy.
pen that sounds like something out of the YMCA or something. But this was the times, listeners. I mean, I used to go with mates. You know, there's no adult with us. We just used to go up and watch the football. So you would pay to go through the kids' turnstiles. But woe betide you if you ran on the pitch. You'd be paying adult prices. Anyway,
It's all your fault, Art. All your fault.
I never went on the pitch. The only time I went on the pitch was the Bristol game, and I think I've mentioned digging up a bit of the turf at the last game at the Old Den, and then not quite knowing what I was going to do with this bit of sod of turf. You know. Anyway, we'll save that for another time. Moving along, I've got a little variety of subjects for Neil and I to chew over, and we picked out the recent Jake Cooper's 400th appearance for the Lions. Great achievement. Well done to Jake. The club did some really nice posts on social media. And the video I thought was the tributes from fellow players and Neil Harris and so on, paying tribute to him. But I just thought I'd take the chance just to mention it, because we didn't really cover it much on our show, but just also to look at the top appearance table, of which Jake Cooper is now sixth in the league table of all time Millwall appearance players, and he's got Neil Harris in and Alan McCleary in well within his sights, possibly this season, depending on injuries and obviously things that you can't control. But he's in sixth spot on 400, behind Alan McCleary on 413 in all comps, and Neil Harris on 431. So that's he might be able to overturn Neil Harris, possibly, if he can stay fit. Neil, he's got Harry Cripps in third position in sight, 443. That is quite something.
Do you know what? I had to look at that list to see where he was, because I was convinced he wasn't as high as he actually is.
Yeah, incredible.
But he's kind of snuck up, hasn't he? He seems to have been around forever. Apart from getting booked after about 5 minutes in most games, he doesn't seem to miss that many. I know he's bad.
He's got one for Saturday, isn't he, at Pompey?
But it was something that you had to stop and think. And I thought I thought he might be just outside the top 10. I certainly didn't think he's as high as he is, but but the evidence doesn't lie. He's been a very consistent player for us over a number of years, hasn't he?
Absolutely. The top 10, Jimmy Abdu in number 10, Jim Forsyth, one of the old-time players, in 9 on 343. Paul Robinson, 306, was one of the video messages. Really nice little video the club did there. 361. Alan Dunn, I think also, if memory serves, he was on the video. Congratulations that was sent on 387. Then Jake on 400 now. He's behind Alan McCleary on 413. Neil Harris on 431. Then Harry Cripps, and then I think the big boys are Keith Stevens on 557. Second position behind Barry Kitchener, 596. I think they're probably out of reach realistically for unless Jake's career goes on and on and on. But certainly he could eclipse Harry Cripps in the league table of appearances, Neil. And I think, just going back to your point about how he's crept up into this position, and I've almost in a way include Alan McCleary in a similar way. He's come to be loved, but for a long while, I think he was just seen almost as not quite taken seriously as a player. I think he was always seen as like the big boy next to the decent defender, and I'm starting to wonder now whether it was the other way around. Actually, that Jake was the decent defender, making others look good alongside him, and McCleary obviously had a similar kind of role in many respects. You know, a player that put a lot of service in, but isn't one of the first names that leaps to your mind when you think of, you know.
I think he works well with people.
Yeah.
He's one of those players that you put in alongside somebody.
Yeah.
And works well alongside them. Certainly Tendanga.
Yeah.
Springs to mind, doesn't he? A fantastic player, but needs somebody
with him.
alongside him, and Jake's that man. Yeah, it was almost like a supporting role, isn't it?
Well, Sean
To them.
Hutchinson was his oppo for a long, long time too, and obviously his day is done now. But Jake's still there. 31 goals as well. That's interesting. Of the, if you exclude Neil Harris, obviously is by some distance the highest scorer in this particular group. Then that's not a bad goal return either. Harry Cripps got 39 and he's 400, so that's a decent return.
But weren't Harry Cripps' a lot of penalties in there?
There was your penalty, boy. I actually didn't see the bulk of his career, so I don't know. I'd have to check that. We'll check.
There must be
Yeah.
penalty there. I would have thought, but Jake. Yeah, but Jake's are certainly from open play, aren't they? And
corners, and the
speciality.
Yeah, but no,
that the other week was absolutely magnificent, wasn't it?
Yeah, huge achievement, and just making a nuisance of himself in the 6-yard box. And the number of times in recent times we've seen 2 players, sometimes 3, trying to block him. And he's a huge guy, Neil. I mean, he towers above. If you stand next to him, you feel like a midget. You honestly do. So there we are. That's the top 10 list, and well done to Jake for the achievement, and fingers crossed that you can press on and put yourself really in amongst the very top legends of the club. Neil Harris and McCleary just now marginally in front of him. Neil, I wanted to mention a very strange game. We're talking ahead of Saturday's trip to Fratton Park to play Portsmouth. And I don't know why, every time I think of Fratton Park, I always think of the strangest game possibly in my time, which is where we had to play a home game in the aftermath of the Ipswich issues in 1978. We were forced to play one of our home games because the den had been closed, listeners. And we played and got beat by Bristol Rovers 3-1, played at Portsmouth. This was a home game. And I went down to it. I was at this game. It was the most miserable afternoon's football I think I've possibly ever had, because it was an away trip. It didn't feel like an away trip. Just 3,000 people in Fratton Park, 3,322 to be precise, and we got beat 3-1 by Bristol. We were given the home end. We were stuck at the away end. Everything was uncomfortable about the whole afternoon. Maybe that's the punishment. I've got a report here from the Sunday Express of this very strange match. Ace Gould, Bobby Gould, raps sad Millwall, says Barry Carter of the Sunday Express. This is dated April the 2nd, 1978, listeners. Millwall won, Bristol Rovers 3, played at Portsmouth. Millwall forced to play their home game, inverted commas, at Fratton Park because of hooligan behaviour by their fans, have more problems after losing a vital relegation battle against Rovers before a financially disastrous gate of only 3,322. Bobby Gould, who'd go on to become manager of Wimbledon, Rovers veteran, set up the opening goal in the 28th minute when he broke down the left. His cross started a race between Nicky Johns, Mill goalkeeper, and Bristol striker Paul Randall. He was a big name for a while in Bristol Rovers football, Paul Randall. Randall back in the side after injury, got the first and scored with a diving header for his 17th goal of the season. And so it goes on. The Millwall, we've got a late penalty by way of consolation. Season being brought down, Brian Chambers slotting the ball home after, but by then we were 3 goals behind. Miserable afternoon out, and I always think of it every time we go to Fratton Park. It must have scarred my my psyche, mustn't it? I can remember that hooligan behaviour. The travelling fans tried to set fire to the side stand. They got a bonfire going underneath it, but it got put out. So even that was a bit of a flop. So the whole day was miserable. I'm not sure it would be made any better with a bonfire going, but still, that was my memory.
Yeah, they loved it. Yeah, well, around that time, didn't UEFA force Man United to play?
Yeah, they played at Plymouth, didn't they?
At the end down here in Plymouth, and they had to play a certain distance away.
They had problems. I think United had problems on one of their trips. They got a 150-mile circle of an exclusion zone. And I think Plymouth came, as an English club, came within just outside that boundary. They had to play a a home game at Plymouth at Home Park. But they did like that. I think we were due to play Mansfield during the period of closure, and we couldn't find anyone else to take us. I think teams were turning us away. We finished up delaying it so long that the time limit on the closure expired, and we played Mansfield towards the end of the season.
It was like double penalties, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Not only after... Yeah, we could have played it behind closed doors. I'm actually also thinking the Vermin played University Kiowa or somebody.
They did.
Closed
doors. Yeah,
that would have been a more fitting penalty, but then again, I suppose everybody would have just lumped on Jews Hill, wouldn't they?
There we are. But so that's that. I just thought I'd mention that, listeners, and apologies if I've ever mentioned it before. It lives in my memory, and I probably had mentioned it, but apologies for that. That was the one of the strangest.
We'd go to one weird games in Millwall history, wouldn't it? Being the other, was it Salisbury in the FA Cup that we had to play at Southampton?
Yeah, that got played. We, and of course, in the days of FA Cup replays, you go to a third ground on a third replay on a neutral ground. And I remember us playing. I think we played Leighton Orient at Highbury, of all the places. You know, in Arsenal's Highbury Stadium. That was after two draws at Brisbane Road and at the Den. So we finished up at Highbury playing in the late 70s. There we are, dear listeners. We're going to take a very short advertising break, and then just because I can, Neil, I'm going to take you to the world of sport, 1960s style. Stay tuned, dear listeners.
Achtung. Okay, only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first... there, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
Getting ready to step into your career era? Set yourself apart with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Hone your skills with apps like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, and more, powered with the latest in creative AI. Students save over 55% so you can build a portfolio you're proud of. Launch your future with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Visit adobe.com/students to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. New players, new games, new rules. Squid Game, The Challenge returns for a gripping second season. 456 contestants from all walks of life, competing in the ultimate test of strategy, alliances, and endurance. For a life-changing prize of $4.56 million. With stakes this high, why make friends when you can make millions? Catch up on the latest episodes, now playing only on Netflix.
Millwall.
Welcome back. Now, we do like to go off on tangents. I like to go off on a tangent or two here, Neil, don't I? And I thought I'm going to...
Yeah, we're talking about it's a knockout again, are we?
No, we're not going to do that. we are looking at the TV times from the week of the Millwall game that we mentioned at the start of the show, 1966, September the 24th. Front cover is Liza Minnelli, Liza with a Z. But that's not what caught my eye. It was the World of Sport, which was the big Saturday afternoon sports program. It just struck me, Neil, how much sports coverage and our expectations of what we get now has moved so far from 1966. In my lifetime, I remember, World of Sport being the big show of the week, and they're always feeling quite glitzy. But I'm just looking at the running order for World of Sport for this particular Saturday, the 24th of September. Richard Davis, he later became known as Dickie Davis, and they tried to loosen it up a little bit. But Richard Davis, he was then. It started at 2:15 before going straight to the horse racing. I used to hate horse racing. It seemed to be so boring. With John Rickman, who was a presenter, always had he was very much in the horse racing style. He had like a brown suede cap, and he'd always you can't see what I'm doing, listeners, but he would raise his cap to the viewers when he welcomed you to the show. And then we got swimming from Ebbw Vale, the Welsh National Championships of Swimming from Ebbw Vale Swimming Pool. This is not Sky Sports, listeners. More racing.
Bending going on here, I tell you.
More racing from Catterick at 2:55 before we switch over to Silverstone for motorcycle racing. this was all built around the halftime results. The results at from 3:35 onwards. Then more swimming from Ebervale. Before the big star piece of sports television each week was the wrestling that would come on from 4 o'clock, building up to the football results from 4:45 onwards. And my eye was caught because this is professional wrestling from the pavilion at Hemel Hempstead, Neil. This is a glamour location here, including a catchweight contest featuring Mick McManus, who was from New Cross. And I always used to look out for Mick McManus because, New Cross having a Millwall connection. So I thought I'd look up Mick McManus, listeners. It was really some character, and I'd never really read about him, Neil. He was what they call a heel wrestler, and that meant he was the bad guy, because
that's right.
Every wrestling match must have a face, who is the heroic golden boy, normally a local lad, normally a decent looking boy, and he's up against the heel, and the heel will break rules or bend the rules, perhaps, better way to put it, and be, as Mick McManus billed himself, as the man you love to hate, also known as the rugged South London tough guy, and the Dulwich Destroyer. What a name. The Dulwich Destroyer, Neil.
Yeah, but these were the days, actually. Well, do you remember when the BBC used to have grandstands?
Yeah.
Oh, you'd actually have On the Ball on ITV, didn't you?
The football feature, yeah.
And you had Football Focus.
Yep.
Ruined by Alex Scott. Quite recently. And there was always the wrestling on ITV. Yep. They had the second half of a rugby league match.
They would do the second half, that's right. Normally with Eddie Waring commenting on it.
Yep, that's right. And it used to come from
Hunslet.
From some absolute shithole up north.
Well, it taught me names that I'd never heard of, like Keithley, Hunslet, Barrow.
Yeah, you actually... we were just confronted by the weird sport.
Whitehaven, Wakefield Trinity.
You vaguely knew about rugby union because you had rugby special on a Sunday, didn't you? So
yeah,
and then you were confronted by this rugby league and
always played in mud because they
play the ball and thunder.
Well, it was a muddy game, and because obviously played in the winter, and then they had this huge cultural shift to being a summer sport, which is what you see now on Sky TV. I don't mind a bit of rugby league as it goes, but played in the mud, it became like it must have been what the Battle of the Somme might have looked like, kind of like a grinding mass of flesh rolling around in mud trying to score a try or something. But yeah, the wrestling was the star feature, really, and it was always from places like Catford Town Hall or Wolverhampton Baths and places like that.
Well, it was live as well, wasn't it? I tend to remember it wasn't ever recorded; it was live.
I think it was live. Yeah, I think so.
No.
But McManus became quite a big character in the sport. He was painted by Peter Blake, the 1960s artist, who also painted another heel wrestler called Kendo Nagasaki, who always wore a mask. And Mark Rollerball Rocco was the other big heel wrestlers, and their job was to wind up the crowd and provoke little old ladies to come over their handbag and start trying to hit them and tell them to leave the face alone,
It wasn't John Dax a heel.
He was a heel,
well.
yeah. And Big Daddy was, you wouldn't call him a face, but he was certainly a good guy, But
Shirley
Crabtree. The thing that intrigues me is that if you look at the Wikipedia, and I do recommend that you have a quick look, listeners, at Mick McManus's Wikipedia page. It's quite interesting. It's an insight into the doublethink of professional wrestling. Because on the one hand, he's listed as winning the British welterweight championship, defeating Eddie Capelli, names before my time, then becoming middleweight champion. And so it goes. And then after that, in later life, after retiring from active wrestling in 1982, he became an advisor to London Weekend Television until the end of professional TV wrestling. And he worked in he worked for a promotions firm called Dale Martin, which is a big name in the world of wrestling, as a booker. And what that means, according to Wikipedia, is you match up the fights, determine the matches and their results. So he would put together a heel and a face and determine who might win after what kind of incidents. Which kind of, I don't know about you, Neil, but if your job is that of a booker fixing games, how can you then adequately claim to be a champion? Because that's been fixed, hasn't it?
Mate, yeah, but the whole thing's fixed. Yeah, well, you look at the WWE now, and it's all bent, isn't it? Let's be honest.
And this is, I mean, just to go on with Manners, you're right. I mean, you can make your own mind up, listeners, on the double thing of being a booker and booking, determining results of wrestling matches. Anyway, but he was a talented man, and he became a TV advisor of LWT. Then he works in public relations. He owned a pub in Guildford, Royal Hotel. And finally, for me, the best bit of all, he became a connoisseur of antique porcelain, and whilst continuing to advise professional wrestlers. He finished his days in a care home in Twickenham, I believe it is, or Richmond. It might be Richmond. But he became a famous man in his own right, painted by the pop artist Peter Blake, and mentioned by Morecambe and Wise in their famous Masterminds sketch, where they confused Magnus Magnusson, who was the quizmaster, with Mick McManus. And there we are. I had to mention it because that's what we do on this show, Neil, don't we?
Yeah, but those were the days when you used to only get a match of the day on a Saturday night, the big match on a Sunday lunchtime, which if you can get ITVX, I would highly recommend, because I was watching one last week and there were a couple of kids ran on the pitch at the end.
I hope they paid adult price.
Yeah, I think it was an Arsenal game, Arsenal Man United, I think, to remember. But that's all you got. And then you got, was it Sports Night?
Sports Night with Coleman. Was it Reg? What was his name? Was it not Reg Gutteridge? What was it? Oh, Harry Carpenter, wasn't it? Sports Night with Carpenter became as well. That was the midweek sports show. You get some football on that.
Yeah, but then didn't you used to get something on ITV?
Yeah.
I vaguely remember Brian Moore doing
midweek football. I can't remember what they called that, but yeah, I mean,
that's all you got. That is all you got, and you switch on.
Live football was the FA Cup final, wasn't it? And then the England-Scotland game played either at Wembley or Hampden. That was it. There was no other live football on.
You very occasionally got an England game in the middle of the season, didn't you? I can vaguely remember watching England and Italy in a World Cup
qualifier. That was I think I remember that. It was a rarity. It was a rarity. And now you can put on. Just at the weekend, I caught myself watching the Northern Ireland versus somebody. I thought, why am I watching this? It's just because it's on. You get used to wall-to-wall sports coverage, but very different times in 1966. And just to mention again, it was a few months after we'd won the World Cup, so that was the level of sports coverage that you got there.
In fact, I'm not even sure you had the big match then. I know the BBC had match of the day, but I don't think
they had regional programs, didn't they? All of the northern TV stations had their own Star Soccer, I think one was called, and there was Midlands had a version of it. The big match was in London only, wasn't it? It was all based.
Yeah, but it was regional TV, wasn't it? Right. And you had your regional matches, and then Brian Moore would always do your game in London, and then they'd pull.
That's right.
A game from two games from elsewhere, didn't they? But that's all you got. Yeah. That was it.
No, that's right. Now we're deluged with it. Sport. For better or for worse, listeners. It's not going to change. There we are. One last thing, just before I say sayonara to Neil and to you, dear listeners, but I just wanted to mention, we asked on a previous show for interactions with Millwall players, and I did get a message, and I don't think I've mentioned it previously. Charlie or Charles has sent me a message talking about his interactions. He was working for the NHS in a maternity hospital in Bromley, and he had both Jed Wallace and Lee Gregory coming in with their expectant partners. He'd gotten too nervous to speak with Lee Gregory. He melted, as he puts it, but Jed he did speak to, and he's a very nice bloke, nice fella. But so there we are. Maternity brought in contact with Lee Gregory and Jed Wallace. A big thank you there to Char. And I want to close, Neil, if I may, by giving a shout out to the Achtung Millwall podcast calendar. I've got a load of calendars. I've got a shift list, and I've set myself a target of a £500 donation for the food hub. And so far, we haven't shifted many. So if anyone is interested in buying a podcast calendar featuring action shots from Brian Tonks, of the main players in the scene, do give me a shout. Contact me on the email address achtungmillwall@gmail.com, and we can sort out getting a donation for the Lions Food Hub. So big thank you to you, Neil, for tuning in and commenting.
Well, if we don't sell enough this year, we'll do an action pictures of us all.
That would be
for next year.
Yeah, I think my pace has gone, Neil. My pace has gone. I never had it in the first place.
Yeah.
But no, it's a great cause, listeners, and any support is appreciated. The Achtung Millwall podcast calendar. Send me a message, and we'll get in touch with each other. Big thank you, Neil. Thanks for coming on the show, as always, mate.
Yeah, no problem at all. No problem at all. Enjoy it, as always.
Thank you to you, too, dear listeners. Any suggestions for future subjects, do give me a shout. If we can cover anything, then we will do our best to look at the many different stories and aspects of Millwall life over the 140-odd years that we've existed. So till the next edition, from me, Nick Hart, and from Neil Fissler, it's Arrivederci Millwall. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Achtung Millwall. If you're tuning in via Spotify or YouTube, please feel free to comment, like or subscribe as you see fit. God bless. Until the next show then, it's bye for now.
Who do you want to watch?
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.